fellow resident England fan here, and I got a sudden depressive feeling in my body. The Queen died! Alright, just got a call. Turns out this was a while ago. I'm fucking washed. Anyways, Persona 5.
Persona 5 is, wait a minute. I've already done this before. Let's just get right into the action. Makoto Nijima is a member of the Fan of Thieves, and a pretty notable one to boot. Makoto has become a pretty big fan favorite character among the fan base, and also the developers. Seriously, if you look at the pre-release art in the game, Makoto has a fuck ton, including this one in this like car, which has like Joker not really looking like the Joker we know, but it's pretty cool actually. Today, however, I don't give a fuck about any of that pre-release bullshit. I'm going to be looking at Makoto's role in the story, her character arc and how well it's executed, her confidant, and also covering whether or not she could beat 100 gorillas in one man. Or, in other words, if she's good in combat. With that all being said, boom, Kamoshida!
Sorry, a child predator just appeared out of nowhere.
Kamoshida getting outed by the Phantom Thieves leads to Principal Kobayakawa conducting a little investigation on who exactly they are, believing them to possibly be dangerous. In order to achieve this, he uses Makoto Nijima, the student council president, to basically play detective and gather information on them. Makoto agrees to this mainly out of social pressure, believing she needs to do this in order to get a letter of recommendation to any college of her choice. This pressure is mainly brought on by society, and how much harder it is for a woman in Japan to reach those heights of education and respect. This pressure is also brought alongside by Makoto's own sister, Sei, who puts a ton of pressure on her, because of reasons I'll explain later. But for a while, Joker and the gang don't know this, so for the first few interactions between the Phantom Thieves and Makoto, Makoto comes off as an antagonist, to be honest. But the game begins to reveal more of her own inner turmoil, of feeling used by adults in society, which obviously directly ties to the Phantom Thieves, who are very much trying to stop evil adults in society. By the time Kanashiro's arc begins, Makoto reaches a breaking point, tired of feeling used and tired of feeling useless. She ends up losing some fucking brain cells because of this and rushes into Kanashiro's lap, leading to the Phantom Thieves getting blackmailed for drug use as Kanashiro flicks a picture of them here in this club. We also get some of the greatest voice acting ever laid onto our ears. Makoto, disappointed in herself, finally reveals her struggles to the Phantom Thieves, who, instantly feel sympathy for.
Hey, who would have guessed it? The people trying to stop evil, rotten adults would probably sympathize with someone who's getting exploited by evil, rotten adults.
Anyways, the Phantom Thieves decide to take down Kanashiro as well, because if they don't, they'll probably get expelled from Shujin, which, after some further thought, might not actually be that bad. Makoto ends up tagging alongside them in order to break through Kanashiro's security because, well, she's a client now. Here, Makoto ends up releasing the beast, getting a sweet new Harley Davidson, and getting her codename, Queen. From here on, Makoto is no longer down for being exploited by society, but instead looking out for herself, making her own destiny, while also trying to live a normal life, which she has been rejecting due to her own grind of 24-hour study sessions.
This search for a new life is the main focus of her confidant, which makes a lot of sense. A slice of life exploration fits very well in the confidant format. Unfortunately, Makoto's confidant is high-key dog-ass.
The main issue with Makoto's confidant is its lack of focus on actually developing Makoto's character. Persona 5 is a game where a lot of character development gets put into that specific character's confidant. Whether you want to argue if that's already flawed in the game's writing is your choice, and I would say that I agree with you, and I wish that the game would have actual more character development in the main story. However, the reality we live in is that a lot of the characters get their own arcs in these specific confidants, and Makoto gets shafted pretty bad in this. The confidant doesn't start off bad though, with Makoto stating how she's going to start living a more normal high school life and develop things called friends.
Who needs those? Am I fucking right?
But as soon as Aiko enters this confidant, it takes a nosedive in quality. Aiko as a character isn't exactly terrible, but her plotline with Tsukasa overshadows Makoto's own arc a lot. Some might argue that this plotline and the friendship between Aiko and Makoto is part of her arc, and well, that is somewhat true. I believe the large amount of space that this plotline takes up kind of chops up the pacing, and by the time it all wraps up, there's barely any time left to finish Makoto's actual fucking character arc. It's not all garbage though here. We get a solid rank, where Makoto reveals her father's death and the effect it's had on her and her sister. After the death of her father, it made Makoto shut herself in from the real world and sacrifice a social life, and instead pouring her energy into studying and grinding in a society she doesn't even care for. I think this is a very solid rank in the Confidant, mainly because it doesn't focus on Aiko and her bullshit, but instead on the inner conflict of Makoto. If the ranks were more focused on her inner conflict alongside breaking free of her shell, maybe I would have liked the Confidant more, but as it is now, it's kind of just mid as shit. With that being said, though, Makoto is an interesting enough character to at least make the Confidant worth playing through. So while I wouldn't say this is the worst Confidant in the game, or even among the worst, it's not really outstanding either.
Now, unlike many other major characters in this game, where Makoto actually shines is in the main story, not her Confidant.
Makoto does quite a bit in the main story of Persona 5. In fact, she does so much that people often crack jokes about how Makoto is the true leader of the Phantom Thieves. While I don't agree with this notion exactly, it's hard not to somewhat agree when Makoto is consistently the smartest and most reasonable one of the group. Makoto gets a lot of time in the spotlight here in the storyline, assisting most of the plans and being the essential co-leader of the group. If it's not Joker calling the shots, then Makoto probably has the vodka on hand. This makes Makoto an active force throughout most of the game, when most other Persona 5 characters basically turn into Casper the fucking Ghost and vanish off into the horizon. It's to the point that it might be too much, considering that, Makoto isn't the actual leader of the Phantom Thieves. But having a character that provides some reason, especially in the absolute cancer ward that is the Okumura arc, is definitely welcomed. Also, her relationship with her sister, Sei Nijima, is critical in the main story. Makoto, knowing that Sei did have a palace, tries to find other ways to possibly change her heart, even while knowing that she had her own palace. And even when they enter the palace, Makoto still struggles with accepting her sister's true nature, and even breaking down at some point. But thanks to Akechi's kind, light-hearted, honest soul, she's able to calm down. Shout out Akechi, man, love that guy. Hope he's doing good. I feel like the relationship in this arc is honestly an underrated aspect of Persona 5 that I don't feel like is talked about enough. I generally find this to be one of the more earnestly emotional parts of the game, even if it feels a little undercooked with all the other shit going on in the story. But after Sei's palace, while Makoto continues to be an active force in the party, her actual character growth kind of stagnates a bit. But in the third semester at Anna Royal, Makoto does get a little more sauce in the form of a dad.
I wish I could have a little more sauce in the form of a dad.
Makoto's best reality is, of course, her father being alive, leading to Sei no longer dealing with the burden of his loss, and thus choosing to have a closer relationship with Makoto. But she eventually declines it, just like everybody else. And boom, that's that!
So I guess we gotta know, can she kill a whole army of angry chimpanzees?
Makoto is really fucking solid in combat. She is one of the most well-balanced party members, not only being able to dish out solid damage herself in both physical and nuclear ways, but also providing healing to the party while also taking hits. I usually almost always use Makoto in my playthroughs because she feels like a straight upgrade to Morgana, being able to provide similar levels of healing ability while also being way more reliable in every other facet. Makoto is really the jack of all trades, master of none. But in a game where every other character focuses on one specific area of combat, whether that be tank, glass cannon, pure healer, or magic damage user, it's nice having a party member who can cover some of your weaknesses, whether it be healing or extra damage to dish out. And yeah, overall, I would say that Makoto is a pretty decent character in the game. Definitely on the upper half of the party members in Persona 5, but I also wouldn't put her in the pantheon of best characters. Those are reserved for characters that I feel like had a better confidant or just a more interesting character arc in the main story. But Makoto's still pretty good. And no, Makoto is not the real leader of the Phantom Thieves. She's the real co-leader of the Phantom Thieves.
Alright, yeah, this wraps up this video. I'm sorry for uploading back-to-back Persona 5 videos, but turns out that making your biggest project, takes a little bit of time. So yeah, I'm apologizing now. So I don't have to apologize later. Goodbye!